Welcome back to Made Up of Wires. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Still, as always, happy election day, everybody. We're gonna have our own little election on the channel today. Look at this, not loading. Let me see if I can start the poll. Who's going to be Lord of the Castle in 2024? Feel free to vote in chat. Dracula's been defeated. And maybe somebody wants to take up new residence of the castle. I know it's been destroyed, but it always comes back. So somebody's got to take it over. 1, 2, or 3. We'll give you a vote. If you're not familiar with the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project, you can go to soten.z.dev and you'll find information about the overlays that we've been decompiling so far. There's a link to the GitHub repo and a link to the Discord server as well. We've been decompiling bits of the Faerie familiar. And that's what we're going to continue doing today. I know I'm compensating for everybody's misunderstanding of how time works. So looking at what we were doing yesterday, looking at one of the Faerie familiar methods, going through some of the logic here, this may or may not be related to how the Faerie determines whether to give potions out or not. I haven't completely come to that conclusion yet. There is logic around the player health that seems to suggest that. But there are some oddities that I haven't figured out yet either. So, for example, and it's possible that maybe I've missed something along the way or misplaced something along the way. One of the things that this function does is adds up a bunch of data from this particular array, which is an SPSS, so we don't know what it is, we can't see it. And then compares that value to both HP max, half of HP max, and an eighth and a 16th of HP max. I guess that would make sense that would be potentially potion strengths, is that right? Is that the 3 potion strengths? Let me look that up. I'm not finding that wiki right away, but I'll, oh, I don't want the stat potion. Yeah, this looks like it's not based on, it's just HP values and not percentages. All right, well, we'll keep going. If you weren't here, Entropy Gravity Well at the beginning, or anybody else who's joined the chat, my stats look like they're broken today. We're voting on Lord of the Castle 2024. 1, 2, or 3. We'll put in your vote. All right. So getting back to this particular function, I was able to grab the PSP version of this function as well. And this helped a bit with some of the structures and some of the ordering for some of these variables. What I was saying before is we have this particular set of 32-bit integers here that are summed up and then compared to HP max. I am going to go back and look at oops. I'm going to look at where this is used. It looks like I may have destroyed a reference to this function along the way. Sorry, not this function, this particular symbol. And so I want to get that back. And if I can figure out how to grep. So I'm going to look to see where that was so I can restore that. What I think happened was I thought that this was part of a larger struct. And then along the way, broke that reference. And so I just want to find that again. And there might be a couple places like that where the reference got destroyed by accident. So it's possible that it's this down here. So looking at the assembly, I'm going to move this around a bit. So we have this 30C on line 213. There's something going on here where an offset is being calculated right away, which doesn't seem correct. We're loading 31C. And that's happening here on line 213. Oh, this is part of the going backwards through that array. So what would be, we'd be 20, no, we'd be 16 bytes before that. So let's look at what is 16 bytes before this and see if that helps at all. So it's possible that it's this FC. This would still be result in a mismatch. But if that's correct, then at least that's something else that's setting that field. However, there's still nothing that's incrementing this field. And that, so it's quite possible that this logic just was never used in the game. So all this is superfluous. That's not clear to me, I guess, right now. All right, let's see what else. I'm going to look at the PSP version. I think there's one change, and I have forgotten what it is, that I have over in the PSP version that is breaking the PlayStation version and vice versa. So I have some diff. I might have to pull them into a file and run diff against them to see what that is. There's a bunch of register issues still on the PSP side that need to be resolved. I've tried working through those with limited success. Here on line 15, it looks like our and may be backwards. So that looks better. If we move params up, is that going to give us the right register? No. Looking here, I just want to make sure all the registers are in the expected order, and they are. We have an extra move up here. This is kind of an odd. So this is somewhat odd. This is trying to get the player out of the V1 delay slot, and we can try to move that above and see if that makes a difference. There's usually not out of order issues on the PSP like there is on the PlayStation, but just to try it. So we're moving this V1. V1 and V0 can be used for return values from functions, and get servant stats has the possibility of overwriting that, but I'm not sure why this is being set up this way and why it's important for it to be done this way as opposed to storing the S1 directly after this and. Hey, Copo, nice to have you on the stream. Copo? Longo? Shorto? So I'm going to skip the move for the time being and keep going. Unfortunately, this move is shifting everything down by 4 bytes, and so that destroys offsets. And it looks like we still have a stack pointer issue up here as well. And they may or may not be related to each other. It may be an alignment issue. There is, though, there is some stack space issues here. Let's see if reordering these will do anything. Yeah, occasionally they do on the PSP. So I have to skip all the registers. On the PSP, we don't have the correct symbols, so we're going to get all these immediate differences. I want to find where we have the next code difference. There is a slight issue here where we're using one of the S registers instead of just using the temporary variable in V1. That kind of hints at this being pulled into a variable, but I don't believe there's anything at S5 that we currently have anyway. It's possible that this 310 is being pulled into a variable. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. We're down here. I did mess with this a bunch last night, pulling rand out into a separate variable, and this seemed more right to me than having it done inline, just based on the order that this is being executed in, as well as what the comparison operator is. To get the ordering correct, I needed to pull the RAND out first. So what order operations happen in a C statement can be somewhat confusing sometimes. And if it's not defined, may not be what you expect. This is an abnormal time, Orcam. This is an abnormal time. There's actually, I'm going to have to either do a different time tomorrow or cut it short. Because we're on the real time in made up of wires land. All right, on line 58, we have a sign extension that shouldn't exist. And that's likely because we're doing a direct comparison against 0 as opposed to just doing the implicit check. That's an easy one to solve. Any of these branches to different offsets. I don't know why for MetroWorks, decomp.me doesn't treat them as the same, but it doesn't. I will post this in chat. If anybody wants to play along at home. Oh yeah, poll is Lord of the Castle 2024. Dracula's been defeated. Castle's going to come back sooner or later. So who's it going to be? Oh no, my I guess the embedded browser, unfortunately. Oh, Richter, we got to vote for Richter. The embedded browser is not pulling in my CSS. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can load this up. I did a nice Castlevania themed style for this, and it's not working. Is it gonna look? Oh, look at that. There we go. Much better. I need to resize though. All right. Now we can keep going. Now we can decompile. All right, so I'm just going to continue down on the PSP side, looking for things that are instruction differences. Here are more register issues. Not terribly concerned with that. If we can't find anything terribly obvious, I might throw this in the permuter, and then we could start working on something else while that's permuting. Okay, so we do have some differences down here. Finally, at line 141. So we have a shift by 2, which would be equivalent to multiply by 4, followed by another shift, so multiplying by 8. It seems to me like that may be 2 different indexes. Being computed together. I did rewrite this. I tried rewriting this a couple different ways. I'm going to look at the decomp and see what that might look like, and I might do some things to pull this out as well. And it might be good to see what the convention is around this function. It's not one that I'm familiar with. So let's do that first. Let's look for other callers of that. And I'm going to limit that to stage and so I don't see any callers. Seems like we're the first. I'll check ASM. Yeah, so far for the overlays that we've looked at, this is the only caller of this function. Let's look at, it's pulling in a value from this array. This array seems to have very specific indexes. Let's start here. Menu has a nice list. So it looks like this is possibly where the Faerie is pulling potions. Is that possible? Looking back here, I'm trying to find where this is on the decomp side. I'm going to go back over to the PS1 version. It's not uncommon when I'm mucking around and making a lot of changes that I screw something up along the way. So I don't want to know that I missed something. Yeah, so the one thing that may be going on here that that I was wrong about to begin with is what the size of this members of this array are. And it does look like down here that there may be an offset that I'm missing. It doesn't change the match at all because the compiler here is not going to know about those offsets. Let's look at this. So this particular array is used. Oh, and it's not part of the familiar overlay. This looks like it may be part of the stage overlay. No, I'm sorry, part of just the game engine overlay. Let's look at that as well in DRA and see what we can find there. Nothing. So why do we have this symbol mapped? So there must be something else that's not decompiled potentially in DRA that's using this. Now a couple things. Okay, so we have some code that we don't know what it is yet, and that might be a good place to look next. Is decompiling one or more of these functions. Is it backed by a version control system? I have no idea what their backing store is. I do know that when you set it up locally, you set up a different database. So it's possible just that these are just blobs in a database. Yeah, I'm not sure. My guess is that that's more likely than they're Git backed. There's no, as far as I know, there's no user-facing source control. You can fork and branch to get independent versions that you can work on separately, but as far as I know, there's nothing that allows you to revert except for undo in your browser. Okay, so let's think about this a little more. Back to the PSP side. So here's where our PSP version is getting done. And so on the PSP side, they're saying we have something with an offset of 4 and then an offset of 2. Oh, and that's interesting here is that this came back as relics, which makes a lot of sense. So this second one being status relics, and that makes sense that possibly this is in the relics struct. That's interesting. Sorry. Looking at the PSP decomp for this line, let's pull this in to the editor, and I'm going to look at relics first. Oh, interesting. Do I not have that in here? I'm going to break this down into each of its components. And then look for relics back in the terminal. That is, oh, status. No wonder I'm not finding it. Okay, so we're grabbing an index of one of the relics. What this may tell us is basically each of these is a relic index. And let's see if I do think that we have a relic. A set of relic IDs. Do these look right? I don't know that they look right. The other yeah, unfortunately, the indexes here seem too high. Let me look at player status. And we're looking at 9798A, 97. Yeah, so this would be right here in the relics address space. Let's look at config, symbols, right, so we're looking for, again, we're looking for 94, 2494. No, not 2494. 798A. 79. Okay, so we're after relics. 7982, 798D. So we're before equipment and order. It's equipment. Never mind. So I'm not sure why on the PSP side that this came back as relics, but it does look like it is items, um, and then that does make sense for um, checking basically which of these items this is going to be. So equip and count. This won't help figuring out the decomp.me match, but it should help our match overall. I'm going to take this back onto the PlayStation side. 2. So there is this out of order load of this 9.4 value. Looking back, and I think the reason that I kept that as two separate loads as opposed to pulling it out into a separate variable was based on the PSP version. It looked to me like this was getting loaded twice. Obviously, the offsets are different, or the temporary name that's given to these is different. How could this work out? I'm just going to create a new variable called equip ID. We are saving that off as it looks like a 32-bit value. Those are, this is an index into the equipment hand count, so that's fine. So we'll just call that equip ID and see if this ends up working out. I do think this will end up being a not equal to 0. Usually, and we'd have to try this on the PSP side as well. Usually, it seems like when a value is treated as numeric, they do an explicit not equal to 0 check. And that's what matches. Here, though, maybe not. The math tells us that it's having to convert that value to something that it can do the comparison against immediate value with. And so it looks like it wasn't a numeric comparison. That's a little surprising. The code base seems a little pretty consistent with that. So there is a sign extension here that's missing. The sign extension could be coming from this equipment ID. Too many sign extensions. It does give us the one though. Let's go back down there and see where that is. I'm a little curious as to what would be causing this second shift. It's possible that this is a two-dimensional array. I guess anything is possible. Let's go back and look at that. I probably should pull this data in because I've looked at it so many times, so I can see what the shape of all this around here is. Okay, so I do think that this was incorrectly marking this first field as a 32-bit. So I'm going to change these to back to an S16. I know I changed that for some reason earlier on, but it seems wrong. So I'm going to change it back. It's possible that instead of a array of or an array of structs, that this is an array of arrays. I'm going to change that back to a sine 32. No. So let's put that back in as a index. The double shift is still there. That did clear out the sign extension. Let me try another. So we do a separate multiply by 4 up here and then use it as an index. Then we do get that behavior. Let me put that in a separate variable. So if we do a equip ID equal to params times 2, and then use this as our index, then maybe this is just an array of 16-bit values and not an array of arrays. Um, maybe getting further away, maybe getting closer. We'll see. Oh, I think we're getting closer. I think we're getting closer. So this looks like it is times 4. We have an issue again with register, so this it's possible that this is happening inline instead of being in a separate variable, but right now that's fine. It's also possible that this is a 32-bit value. So this is a little strange. Let me see if these are the same. That's too late. Okay, so this is making me think that these are structures, and those structures are of size 4 bytes. And I think that's where that um, instead of being uh, maybe it's just pairs of 16-bit values. Right now, this will work and is matching. Let me take this context over, excuse me, to the PlayStation side and see if that is working there as well. And I think when I do this, I am going to obliterate one thing that I know is correct on the PlayStation side, or think is correct on the PlayStation side, but that is going to be okay. And where are we? Oh yeah, okay. So we're closer. That's good. Still some register issues, but getting there slowly. Oh, drat. I didn't fix this part, which I need to make sure is fixed on the PlayStation or PSP side, which won't affect that at all. I do want to look up here. So our stack is finally correct on the PSP side, which is good. Sorry, the PlayStation side. Getting everything mixed up. Um, only a few small things remaining. 176. It looks like this may be coming from just this local variable. Let me make sure that these end up being the same. Yep, that looks fine. Like it. Okay, going back up. skimming through, just seeing what still is missing. Okay, so we have some issues up here, likely from when I changed the type of this, and that does appear to be what it is upset about. Whenever we have some of these deeply nested um, globals, can be a little hard for me, at least, to discern what these might be. So let's kind of just break down what's happening. So this comparison was matching originally, but because of the type change here, we end up not matching in the same way. There was a subtraction. The subtraction here was kind of optimized up because we had loaded both these values before, and so it said, regardless of the branch, I'm just going to load that subtraction. I'm going to go back and look at the decompiled version again. Sometimes this helps me kind of just rewind and try to see what the original intent might have been. So these are nested, and it doesn't necessarily need to be. So pulling those out may be easier to read. In this case, it doesn't seem like it affects anything. It is possible that this load isn't necessary. We're also loading here 16-bit values instead of 32-bit values. And the original was doing this based on this FC. Originally, I thought that these were part of the same structure. It looks like they probably weren't. And yeah, doing that does look like it. May fix things up. And look at that. Everything falls into place when you get the right code. So let's go back over to the PSP side. Not a perfect match here still. Now we do have some extra stack space that we're still dealing with. And that can be cleaned up. I'm going to go back. I'm happy with the PlayStation side, and that's what we're focused on at the moment. I'm going to go back through this and just see what may still be missing. I've worked through this a couple times, so it does seem like this mask may not need a separate variable. And so what I'd like to try to do is replicate that. Let's go back to the decomp and look at what M2C thought this was doing. So it did pull this out into a separate let's see, what other choices do we have here? Params we are using for something else, so maybe we should split that. I'm not sure what this is being used for, so what did I screw up? Back that out. Is that it? Okay, so introducing another variable helped clean that up. It hurts the PSP side. What I think some of the cause there was possibly, yeah, and this was probably it down here. There were cases here where params wasn't being set. And so by reusing that variable, it was guaranteed to be set to something. But we knew from the original a couple days ago, if you've been following along, that that was an uninitialized variable. And so I want to go through, okay, so we have a register issue here, and our registers are looking relatively good otherwise. So this may be something similar, or maybe it's something else entirely. Yeah, I'm not sure what might be causing this one. I'm going to continue on and see if there are other register issues. On line 75, basically the same thing. So it looks like the reference to the Faerie has been put into S2 instead of S3. And we may be able to force that by taking a reference, a local reference, but that's not terribly convincing. And then we have a bunch down here that's all very similar. Here we have a shift. So this is going to be divided by 32. No, sorry. I was looking at the arrow. and got the wrong direction. Multiply by 32 on line 150. So at this point, our Faerie stats, our familiar stats, are no longer in. This S2 and S3 have been swapped. Excuse me. The divide by 32 is something I'm missing where that's coming from. Okay, a few other register issues. I think I'm going to throw this, at this point, I'm going to throw it into the permuter and see if that will result in anything. Other than that, though, so registers are wrong, but there is one extra instruction, and that one extra instruction is going to be fixed by taking out a unnecessary multiplication. All right, let's look at that again. It looks like, yeah, I had an unnecessary multiply that I think I was trying to match a different shift, but that appears to be unnecessary. So there is still register issue here. These are just backwards. So line 75. Yeah, that's odd that I didn't change this one. So that's corrected. Okay, a few more. So here we have A2 versus A1. Down on 165. Getting close. That ends up being this HP move. So there is a... let's look at the PSP side for that and see if we can tell what register it's wanting. We actually have that correct at the moment. It is at the wrong stack offset, though. I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, so there are still some register mismatches here. but it looks like we have all the instructions correct, which is great. So I'm going to start integrating this in, and this is going to be, there are some new structs and some other things that will need to be set up to support this. We modified the Faerie familiar struct as well. So this won't be as straightforward as some of them. I am going to pull, just make sure that I have this up to date. So after frame counter, we found a bunch of signed 16s. Several of these look like they may be defined already. So it's possible that before I do this, I'm going to make sure my build is clean. Or only one vote. How can we? Oh, is drat. Voting is over. You missed it. You missed the polls. Oh, I need to get rid of this. I did want to set this longer than an hour, but I didn't see a way to. Anyway, Richter will be the Lord of the Castle. If you didn't want Richter to be the Lord of the Castle, you should have voted. That's the only way your voice can be heard. A bunch of noise from when I was grabbing the PSP version. Let me just get rid of those. Oh. I could have probably just done a clean in that directory. see if that gets us a build. Yes, the keyboard is satisfying. It is an Apple Extended keyboard 2 when Apple made awesome keyboards. I believe it's from 1989. This was my wife's keyboard growing up. I don't know why her family bought a $200 keyboard to go along with their Mac, but they did, and I'm thankful for it. They said, probably 15 years ago now, we're going to get rid of this computer. Do you have any use for it? And I looked at the keyboard, and I said, yes, I definitely have a use for that, and I've been using it ever since. All right, so we're going to have a few symbols that we need to pull in. And I like to use make or the compiler to tell me what those are, as opposed to copying them over manually. There was a book that I needed for a class in college called the Personal Software Process, PSP. If any of you know anything about SEI or CMMI, any of that software development processes, formal processes. And one of the things that I wanted you to do, and it's funny, like in retrospect, because obviously this never caught on with me, but was they wanted you to keep time logs. And in your time log was information about errors when you were programming, but it wasn't errors like, did I introduce bugs into my program? It was errors like, I forgot a semicolon, or my variable name was misspelled. And it came from a time, I think, when compiling was a much more expensive task that we kind of take for granted now. Maybe you were on a time-sharing system and it would have been great expense to you or your company to compile something that ended up failing, or you'd waste a punch card. Yeah, so this was expected to fail. I am going to go start permuting and see if there's anything here that that the permuter can tell us. Sometimes it can find types or a lot of times it's just noise, but every once in a while it comes up with something good. And that's what I'm going to go with today, that it's going to come up with something good. Gotta find my assembly file. This song, I don't know if the music's loud enough for anybody to hear. This is all royalty-free music from the YouTube catalog. And some of it's good. It's all kind of super generic. But the start of the song reminds me of Streets of Rage. 1 or 2, maybe Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack. Um, those games have incredible soundtracks. Yuzo Koshiro did those. I think that's his name, and he has some awesome YouTube videos as well, where he has his synths set up and will reproduce those soundtracks, and they're just bangers. All right, I'm gonna let that go. Do I have? Yeah, that'll be good. So one of the things that we found along the way was one of these fields was being no, we were calling a function in DRA that hasn't been decompiled yet, and there's not much left in DRA. So, excuse me. So that was a little surprising to see. So let's go find that function and see if we can decompile it. Oh, maybe I just had it. Maybe I just had the assembly extracted for some reason. It looks like it has been decompiled already. Let's look at that and see why that might have been. We have a bunch of non-matching. Oh, these are data. And one jump table, only one func. Okay. So that was just data. I was mistaken along the way. Okay. So what's next? This will run. It hasn't found anything yet. I'll let that run and see if I can find anything else. Otherwise, the link to this scratch is posted in chat if you want to try your hand at it, see if there's anything to find. Let's find what else there is in the Faerie familiar since we're here. And maybe we could start something or just identify what's next and then get into it a little more tomorrow. Not much here. So we had one of the few left. I haven't been, life has been busy, so I haven't been doing a lot in the Discord or paying attention to what's been happening elsewhere in the project, just what I've been working on. But it looks like a lot of this has been cleaned up since I looked last. So if you haven't watched the channel for a while, when we were doing weapons, this was kind of the way that I would find the next weapon function to compile. So we're looking for all the assembly files. I need to change this to the correct directory. And this tells us, oh, I didn't sort. Didn't sort correctly. This tells us what's left to decompile. Let's look at this short one and see what's going on here. Looks like a call to another function, but is there a trick? Somewhat surprising when tiny functions like this are not decompiled and that there's something tricky about it. Let's see if we can figure out what's difficult. Why has nobody done this one yet? So we don't know a type. The easiest thing when we don't know a type is to assume it's void, and then it's just a function call. The type doesn't matter because we're not using it, and so nothing is reserved. We're not using any other variables. I feel like I'm being punked, stream sniped. What? Why has nobody looked at this? Doesn't appear to be called by anybody. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the function that it's calling. The function that it's calling hasn't been decompiled yet. Oh, here's the trick. It is a entity and is expecting to take a entity pointer. Still works fine though. See, class? This is how easy it is to compile things. I win 7F64. Let me look at what my other broken change was. It's in the same file. I am going to... Permuter's found something. We can go look at that. I'm going to revert this. Yeah, and that worked fine. Okay. Won't dwell on it. I got lucky. So take that, everybody else working on the project. I'm joking, of course. This one's a little bit... it's actually pretty straightforward. We'll give that one a shot. You don't see, at least I don't see when I'm decompiling these, ones that legitimately get the check mark very often. So when you see it, it's nice. And we'll see if the decompiler is being friendly to us today or not. Let's grab the signature for this function. Any Vim users in chat? I tend to use Vim key bindings wherever I am. And that doesn't always work out, especially in Microsoft Word. Joking, I don't use it there. Oh, this is a freebie too. So there's some things here that we should clean up. So temp0 we can call entity. This is kind of funny. it's most likely that this is some enumeration and that this is a different enumeration. But except for the 15 case down here, all of these are one greater than the other values. So this could have just been like a addition instead of a huge case statement. What else can we do? So we'll just do a non-zero check here. And we can get rid of this. And that should work as well. We probably don't need temp v1. And I like, when they're coordinates, I usually like to convert those to decimal. This one's cute, 222. And if all the other ones are decimal, I will convert those as well. Yeah, so these are most likely an enumeration. We'd have to go through and see what that enumeration is, but this is an easy one. Like I normally forget to do, I didn't look to see if anybody had started that one. Nobody did, so I win again. I win the internet today, the decompiling internet. So let's find where that one was. That is also in the same file. I'm not. When you get easy ones like that, it makes you feel like you're good at something. When you get the hard ones, it feels like you're terrible at something. So it's nice that we got a mix of both today. The struggle is real, but sometimes it's nice not to struggle. All right, that one works as well. So we got 2 and close on 1. Let's look at the permuter before we go and see what the permuter has given us, if anything. So I'll look at this. Okay, so this is pulling out the Faerie stats into a separate variable, which is a reasonable change. I wouldn't do it inline like this, but doing it outside of the condition and then using that as the index, that makes a lot of sense. So I think that's worth trying. And I'd probably change all the other ones to do the same. This one I'm less sure about. It doesn't seem necessary. One of the things that's curious about this function, and maybe the root of some of the register mismatches here, and we can look at it in decomp.me. When it's trying to find what fraction of HP max like this is divide by 2, and the instructions are pretty clearly division. Oh, bummer, 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 bummer. Did I not save, or did I just screw something else up? Let's load this again. Well, drat. That's what happens. It looks like I may not have saved properly, but fortunately I have the PSP version. Save, save, save. Okay. 360. I think that's where we were. Make sure that gets saved many, many times over. All right. When this is computing various fractions of HP max, the curious one is down here. Instead of doing a division, it does a shift by 2, which is effectively equivalent to a divide by 4, an integer division by 4. And I've attempted to replace that, but it's obviously not correct. And this works on both the PSP and the PlayStation side, so it seems like that is correct. So why do these other divisions as integer divisions and then come down here and shift, and then just below it do 2 other integer divisions? This really stands out as if something's not quite right there. However, it matches, and so who am I to judge? This shouldn't have passed code review. It is solving a puzzle, exactly. Karamine. That's what I like about it. It is effectively a puzzle, and we get to kind of spelunk through what people 30-ish years ago were thinking as they were developing it. Yeah, I agree. Dig down deep. Looking at these others, though, I think I'm fine with all that. I will look to see what else we have. See what's there for tomorrow. This looks like another fairly straightforward one. So there is a bunch of cases in the switch statement, but they all call a function, or maybe 2, maybe branch, maybe not. Really simple, though. Let's look at some of the bigger ones. So this is going to be drawing, and with drawing, there can be some complexity there. So maybe that's where we go tomorrow, is 380. This one is allocating some primitives. Other than that, though, it looks like it's shuffling data around. And then the last one. This looks similar to the other one of these medium-sized ones. Oh, this may be maybe related to the cutscene. the Faerie introduction. All right, so we'll have to figure out which one of those we want to look at tomorrow. If you're new to the stream or new to Decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you can go to soten.z.dev and learn more about what we're doing and how we're doing it. You can find a link to GitHub where the decompiled code lives. You can find a link to Discord where you'll find people chatting about it. Not me lately, but lots of other people. And I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I might have to change the schedule a little bit. In general, this later schedule, later for me, same time for you, works fine, but not tomorrow. So apologies if I stream and it's at a bad time for you, but I will be back. And then on Thursday, we'll come back to the same time. That's it. All hail Richter, Lord of the Castle. He won with a staggering 1 vote. And who knows, for the next 100 years, he might be it. I appreciate everybody tuning in as always, and we'll see anybody who can show up tomorrow. Adios.